Good morning, folks. Everything new under the sun. All right, we're working with the internal microphone on the MacBook again. Gonna see if that works. My Yeti microphone is again not working. I'm not sure why. Sometimes it decides to work, sometimes it doesn't. As I've mentioned before, it is. I bought it off eBay. Basically broken, not working, and I got it working through the headphone jack. But sometimes it decides not to work. So today it's deciding not to work, and I've done everything. Regardless, I want to talk about this article, and I hope to have a longer article about, or a longer video about the economy, the state of the economy. I'm going to take a look at some slides, take a look at where we are on the biblical timeline as it relates to the economy. But this one is kind of part and parcel of that discussion, and the reason being is that in order for a one world government to be able to come together and to put in place a one world currency, the world has to be in a big mess. And it has to be in a big mess in terms of war and the economy, because we know that when the Antichrist comes to power, the one world leader, he will he will have the power and the will of all the nations of the world to put together a one world government. And he will also have the will and the purpose, the mandate of all the countries and all the civilians of the world, all the people of the world. He will have a mandate to actually put in place a one world monetary system. Now, how does one person get such permission from all the leaders and the people of the world to do that? Well, it usually means that there's some massive crisis that has just occurred, and whether it's World War III, it would take nothing less than World War III or an absolute worldwide economic collapse for that to be in place. And I think we're very close to that. We're about, I believe we're probably less than 3 years away from the 7-year tribulation. Maybe even closer than that. And this is one of these articles which could be a trigger point to such an occurrence. This is coming from Zero Hedge. Apparently a serious incident happened on the border with Russia. Serious incident unfolds as NATO jet accidentally, quote unquote, launches secret missile near Russian border. Now, you know Russia is always on edge with NATO, does not like NATO near its borders because it's losing strategic advantage. And the whole mutually assured destruction is almost lessened in a way because there's NATO missiles right on its doorstep, so they could really obliterate most of Russia quicker maybe even than Russia's missiles are able to get over to the United States and the other nations, whomever they decided to hit. But this one's interesting. Estonia's defense minister has halted a NATO war exercise in Estonia pending an investigation after a fighter jet deployed in northeast Europe accidentally fired a secret missile. It's almost, I don't know how these accidents happen. I guess accidents can occur. But sometimes you got to wonder, are these things almost planned? Are they almost baiting Russia into a battle, into a conflict? You never know, and you never know what the warmongers, what the Pentagon, the military leaders of the world, you never know what they're angling at. They don't want World War III, but on the other hand, they do want strategic advantage. So if they can goat someone into a war where they have to go into battle and actually use their skill set, because remember, military leaders are just sitting there effectively doing nothing. They're not completely useful until they're in a war. So, part of their thing is looking for an excuse, and not that they want to go to war, but they're always looking for a time when they can use their skills and ability and actually perform their job, which is defending nations. And so if there's a war that could be close, they're going to be asking for all the money, all the support required to preempt or otherwise, win whatever potential war may be coming down the pipe. And so you look at trigger points in nations, especially with Russia being kind of this, the second military power of the world, really, the major nation in the world that could go toe-to-toe with the U.S., probably with the help of China, etc. And you look for a trigger point, and what is the straw that breaks the camel's back? What pushes us into a one-world government, a one-world leader, a one-world monetary policy? It could be World War III. It could be triggered by any of these. So it could be that an economic collapse triggers World War III, which then triggers the return, or not the return, but triggers an Antichrist figure to come into power and say peace, peace, and broker peace. or it could be a war that triggers an economic collapse, or they happen at the same time, part and parcel. And the end result is that we get an antichrist figure, basically setting up a one world economy, one world currency, because either could trigger the other. And that's kind of where I think this whole thing kind of sets us. Minister of Defense Jüri Luik said Thursday during a press conference in Tallinn, the capital of Estonia, the air-to-air missile was mistakenly launched Tuesday over southern Estonia, and it has not been found, nor did it injure any civilians, so they lost it. Russia could be searching for it right now to see what sort of secret weapon it really is. A tweet from Emmanuel G. May says, a Spanish Eurofighter accidentally fired a missile near Otepa, around 65 kilometers from the Russian border. Russia's on. Russia has military radar systems all around there. They knew this was launched. That's very close. You know that their fingers were on the trigger. To launch a retaliatory strike, and their hands were on the red phone to call the U.S. to say what's going on. Are you launching World War III? This is what these military people are on the job for. They're on the job to look for an imminent strike or an existential threat to their nation. And so this puts Russia on edge hugely. Well, this was apparently, according to Fox News, Estonian Prime Minister Jüri Ratas communicated with NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg on Wednesday, expressing Estonia's concern over the serious incident. So NATO was in command. So this particular one was an advanced medium air-to-air missile, an AMRAAM, and it's a modern beyond visual range air-to-air missile capable of all-weather day and night operations with a range of up to 100 kilometers. So that would easily go into Russian territory, and so Russia should have been worried, rightly so. Luik told reporters that AMRAAM might have crashed into a remote nature reserve in eastern Jõgeva region, not far from Estonia's border with Russia. You can also look at these things as, attempting to determine the response time of Russia. And so when these things look like mistakes, really they could easily be simply NATO testing response time of Russia. You know that Russia regularly tests response time of NATO fighters and North American U.S. fighter jets when it flies its bombers just off the Pacific coast and around Alaska. They're testing the response time of the military. And so they can say it's a mistake, but likely, these things are even if it was a mistake, the military planners would use this as a good chance to say, okay, well, how fast did Russia respond to it? What was their reaction to it? What did they do? How much time would we have in the event of a preemptive strike to go into Russia and do something before they are able to respond, or before their radar can pick it up and do something about it? So all these things are pretty, when they say mistake, even if it is a mistake in and of itself, it's always being used by military planners on both sides to determine what could have been done. On Friday, the Spanish defense minister told Sputnik News that it would not change its pilots serving in Lithuania over the recent incident. The composition of Spanish squad deployed in Lithuania, jets and crews, will not be changed until the end of their mission. So it sounds like it wasn't a mistake necessarily, or it wasn't serious enough to them to change out the pilots. If you wanted to prove to Russia that it was a mistake, it would probably be a good idea to say, okay, let's get these pilots out of there so that not another mistake is made. So to me, that would be a good reason to think, well, maybe this was on purpose. Maybe it was a test of the Russian response time. It goes on here, until further investigation is complete, Luik said, I have suspended all NATO exercises in Estonian airspace. So they're at minimum suspending them, basically. Now, look at this one. This is why I love Estonia. This is a wooden missile apparently in the ground. Somebody in Verumuma Kega village made a wooden statue about the AIM-120 missile that escaped and disappeared from Spain's Air Force over the country. And so they put a little monument up to the apparent lost missile in that case. Pretty interesting stuff. There's a little bit of humor there. But again, any one of these things could trigger World War III, and rightly so, because Russia is tasked. The Russian Air Force and military is tasked with defending the country's sovereignty, defending against existential threats. So when you have a secret weapon and you don't know what payload it holds, what weaponry, what advanced capabilities it holds, you have to be on edge, and so that's what Russia is, I think, now. So it's an interesting event. We'll see in the coming days how Russia further responds to this. But this is, in my view, I mean, it's pretty serious. And you look at any one of these events, any one of these could push us right over that edge into end-time Bible prophecy, where we move into that World War III scenario, where the Antichrist is then triggered to come to power and to come and say, peace, peace. Let's all calm down. Let's have peace. Let's create a one world economic system so that we don't have to fight anymore. But I think big war across the world and economic collapse does break out in a significant enough way that all the nations of the world come together and say, okay, let's have a world leader. Let's have a one world monetary system so that we don't fight anymore. That's the big thing that the Antichrist promises. He promises to bring in peace and security. And the only way the world is going to allow that person to implement that stuff is if they're already without peace and security, if there is already effectively World War III and economic collapse and people are starving. All right, I'll leave it there, guys. We're going to take a look at a couple of economic articles next. And thanks for watching, as always. Thanks to all the new subscribers. Please share the video. Support the channel if you appreciate the content. And we'll see you guys in the next video.